Let me play what Mark Jackson had to say after the game last night. Then we'll bring in Scott Hastings, who is the color analyst for the Nuggets. Here's Mark Jackson, Golden State head coach, after the game.
Some dirty plays early. It's playoff basketball. That's all right. We own it. Make no mistake about it. We went up 3-1 playing hard, physical, clean basketball, not trying to hurt anybody. The screen on Curry by the foul line, is a shot at his ankle, clearly. That can't be debated. I've got inside information that some people don't like that brand of basketball, and they clearly didn't co-sign it. So they wanted to let me know that they had no parts in what was taking place. Let the best team win. Let everybody leave out of here healthy. That's not good basketball.
Let's bring in Scott Hastings, the color analyst for the Denver Nuggets. Mark Jackson telling the truth there, Scott?
No, I don't think he is, to be honest with you. I know there's gamesmanship always being played. Phil Jackson was the king of it in the playoffs. I thought Mark Cuban tried it in a championship series a few years ago with Miami, and it backfired on him because it gives your team an automatic excuse if anything goes against you. I totally disagree. In fact, I could probably produce 15 pieces of tape of. And listen, when I say dirty, listen, remember I played in the 80s and early 90s. To all of us who played back in that era, this kind of soft basketball, but in today's standard, physical basketball. So, no, I think it was a way to build an excuse for his team. I thought Mark has been, in his first playoff series as a head coach, very professional in wins. A little surprised after a tough loss. His reactions, I thought to be honest with you, I thought he was classless.
Classless on his part?
Yes.
Why?
Because it didn't even need to be brought in there. I don't understand what he was talking about. There was two flagrant fouls called in that game, and neither one of them were against the Denver Nuggets. Denver did play more physical in that game than they've played in the series, which I've been chirping on the broadcast. The Golden State, to their credit, had been the more physical team. And for a team who's known, and both these teams really are probably the two most finesse teams in the playoffs currently, I thought by far Landry and Azili and Boger were 10 times more physical and really established what they needed to do to win. I thought Denver countered. I thought they stayed up there and kept their chest puffed, and when you hit them, they stayed there. But dirty and cheap, I would absolutely disagree. And for Mark Jackson to say that, I think that is absolutely wrong.
Now the series goes back to Golden State. What do you expect? What's the play going to be like in Game 6?
Well, you got to think about this. First of all, I think Golden State's crowd is the most unbelievable crowd. Them and Oklahoma City are the two loudest buildings to play in. They're hungry for playoff basketball in Oakland. They came out in games 3 and 4 and absolutely showed out. It's impressive for an old time guy, and Dan, for you even. It was a joy to be able to call games in there, and you just wish you could put the uniform on one more time because you like those kind of environments. I think this was more of a way to rile up the crowd even more so, give his team a little boost, if you will, going into Game 6, because really the pressure now is swung back on them. They don't want to fly back and have to play Game 7 in Denver.
Well, clearly what he's doing is he's saying, because people said, well, why didn't Mark Jackson just be quiet? He's saying to the officials, keep an eye on this.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I don't even know. I know you know this because you're the supreme being as far as intelligence goes on talk radio and everything. But officials have the internet also. They get on computers and iPads, and I think some of them, the older guys anyway, Joey Crawford probably actually reads a newspaper still. But these guys read. They know what's going on, and so yeah, they absolutely in the best sense of Phil Jackson. Trying to set things up for Game 6. The thing, here's why I say it's classless, because I know the coaching staff, and I know what kind of men they are, and I know that there's not a man on there that's going to go sit there and say, go hurt another player on that coaching staff. And I think Mark, it not only calls out players, it's calling out the coaching staff, and I don't know that if that's if that's what he needed to do in this situation.
Yeah, I think it's fair to read into it that far, Scott. We're talking to Scott Hastings, former NBA player, Nuggets analyst, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. Tim Kawakami, San Jose Mercury News, said that there were Nuggets players repeatedly telling Steph Curry he was soft. Do you think that happened?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, listen, he is the greatest shooter. All respects to Ray Allen, Reggie Miller, Larry Bird, who are just fabulous players, Hall of Fame players. Steph Curry may be the most unique shooter I've seen. I didn't get to watch Pete Maravich live or anything, or at least when he was in his prime. But he's the most unique shooter I've ever seen. He's quick with the ball. I had Dennis Scott on my radio show yesterday. And Dennis, another great shooter. You could tell when he was a little kid, he had the ball in his hand a lot. I love watching Steph Curry play. But to me, the difference between the Birds and even the Reggie Millers, that if you're going to want the calls or if you're going to want to play a certain style, and you're going to talk trash about it, you kind of got to back it up and not complain when it comes back at you a little bit. I don't think he likes to be touched, but I don't think the modern basketball player likes to be touched much. It's a whole different era, and old guys like me, have had to adjust to accepting that, hey, that's a flagrant, that's this, and that's that. But yeah, I think there's times that he's probably complained when he gets bumped because star players today are entitled, empowered, and told that you're not allowed to be touched.
You cover the West. What should the Lakers do with Dwight Howard?
Oh man, that's a great question. Listen, I like Dwight a lot. I like his athleticism. I don't think he's a real skilled big man. I don't think he has a go-to move. You can't put him on the block and sit there and see past glory days of Akeem Olajuwon or Kevin McHale or even a Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I would personally, if I was him, I'd work on my game and try to develop a consistent jump hook, turnaround jump shot. I'd fix my free throws.
Scott, it's too late for that. The guy's been in the league 9 years. You don't have a go-to move. You can't make free throws. Here's what I want to know.
I once saw a rescue dog 7 years old to sit.
So, therefore, you can teach Dwight Howard what?
You can make him a better player. Now, I will say this. I think Dwight Howard got in Dwight Howard's head this year. I thought Dwight Howard was deep into Dwight Howard's head this year and psyched himself out too much. The Lakers made a big gamble to get him. I don't think there's good chemistry between him and Kobe. And I haven't heard much. You probably talked about it, but I think it's not by accident that Kobe came out of the locker room for his first appearance after Dwight got kicked out. And my take was that he didn't want to sit in the locker room with him.
Well, so, I think Kobe likes playing with Powell more than he does Dwight, but the future of the Lakers is Dwight. Do the Lakers pony up $118 million, or do they do what I think they should do, sign and trade him, and be able to build for the future, but get players in there that want to be there and are ready to be there? I don't know if Dwight if he understands the magnitude of being the man in Los Angeles. Once Kobe goes, everything is funneled right to Dwight Howard, and you got to be ready for that. It's not Orlando.
And that's a great point. And you know what? I don't think that's a horrible idea. I remember talking to McHale one time. He said you had to have your best leader, your best athlete, your best scorer. You could have one guy kind of be two of those. Sometimes they'd be three, but you need those positions. He might be your best athlete, can maybe be your best scorer, but I don't think he has leadership traits, and so probably would be better in a system. And that'd be another question: is Mike D'Antoni your coach? I'm not sure that they fit for Dwight Howard.
None of it fits, Scotty. None of it. None of this fits. D'Antoni's system. You struggled to get Pau Gasol and Dwight Howard on the floor at the same time. It's a mess, and then you got salary cap issues, you got an old team, and you got a guy at the crossroads of his career saying, do I want to be a guy who stays, or do I go to my third team in 3 years?
And how about that, if that does happen for a guy that a lot of us put the mantle on a couple of years ago, the best big in the NBA, and now here he is turned into a very talented guy that is finishing his career, and who knows, he may play there 6 or 7 years, but he's finished his career kind of as a journeyman.
Before I let you go, who faces the Heat in the finals from the West?
I think it's San Antonio's last hurrah to get there. I think, especially with Westbrook out, it's San Antonio's to lose. But I will say this: I tell you, there's something intriguing about Memphis. To be honest with you, and so they can maybe do something. I'd like to say my Denver Nuggets could do something, but they got to get out of a Game 6 on Thursday night before I could even put them in that talk.
Good to visit with you. Go back to bed.
I miss you. Well, actually, I'm going to go play some Call of Duty.
Oh, no. Once again, Father of the Year, living the dream. Thank you, Scott.
See you, buddy.
Scott Hastings, former NBA player, Nuggets analyst. What a knucklehead. I was in Atlanta when he was a player. Well, he was on the team. Came out of Arkansas. But Scotty always with a good sense of humor.